Wake up in the morning, I just gotta get it. Wake up in the morning, I just gotta get it.
All right, welcome everyone to the Schoology Learning Podcast. Thanks for joining us. This is the podcast where we talk about some things we're hearing out in the world about education, as well as some tips and tricks about our favorite platform, which is, of course, Schoology. My name is Kellie, and I'm joined by my colleague, Ericka Waterman.
Hey, Kelly. I'm so excited for us to take this time. I just remember how fun it was when I was teaching to take the lunchtime or, any little break that we had and just kind of talk with colleagues. So hopefully everyone can join us and just get a little chit chat about education and Schoology while they're at it.
Yeah, so let's get started.
So Kelly, I was talking to my colleagues today on the professional learning product.
Yeah.
Which has a lovely integration with Schoology. And, we were talking about some of its features, which, I do love the professional learning product. I used to work with that support team and, everything that it can do for professional development and keeping track of that and, the transcripts and the badging and all that kind of good stuff for our districts who are using our professional learning platform. But it just got me thinking about Schoology and how much it's being used for professional development, because I would think that every district that has Schoology would be using it for professional development, because why wouldn't you, right? How great to have the teachers learning in the same course that they teach in. I just think or the same system. I just think that'd be great. But what I found out is I don't think everybody's doing that. And so I thought, could we take a little bit of time to talk about how great this integration is and some of the ways that they could use it?
I think the timing on this is perfect, actually, because I was thinking about how many districts do things over summer or they do academies or whatever. And one of the things that we always would recommend to a new customer coming on board is if you start with anything, start with putting your PD inside of Schoology, because then people get to use it as a learner, and it makes I think it makes the adoption of it as a teacher easier, because then you get these ideas of like, oh, I could do this with kids or whatever. So it used to be like a really common, regardless of whether they were using a system to track PD opportunities, regardless, like Schoology is designed to be a learning environment for learners, whether they're adults or kids. So yeah, I'm 100% agree with why wouldn't you? Like, why would you use something else?
Yeah, well, and I was talking, so I was fortunate enough to get to talk with a bunch of customers. I was at a user group where, a lot of these people are the technology coordinators in the district. They're the ones helping teachers use this technology. And they were very excited about creating courses for their staff that uses some of the either new functionality or that like really they can showcase some of that so that teachers are like, oh, I can use that. I didn't realize Schoology could do that, but now I can take it and use it in my classroom. So it was really encouraging to hear that. But there were also a lot of those people in the room who had never, they were like, oh, we didn't think about using Schoology for our professional development.
That makes me so sad.
I know. I know.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, one of the things that I thought about when we talked about the course template functionality, earlier in another podcast. And this is one area where I don't know if people who are offering PD have thought about how they could really leverage that. But we used to, every summer, we had a summer learning academy, but we had a course shell that had common resources for the instructors. So like no matter what the course was for the PowerSchool Academy, or not the PowerSchool Academy, for our Summer Learning Academy, they had a folder that was like facilitator only. And then there would also be other things that were mandatory that every learner had to have. And we used to have to go through so many hoops to get those things added to the right courses, because we had lots of offerings, so it wasn't as easy as just copy to. I would use that course templates thing now, like here are all the PD courses we're offering with all the resources you already need, and being able to add stuff after the fact now,
And
like,
send it out like, hey, we
yes,
missed adding this, but I can just get it out to all the courses that I copied that template to. I agree. Like I
yeah,
just,
yeah,
how instead of trying to reach all the facilitators of these courses and make sure they add it, you can just ensure that it goes there. I
right,
agree.
right.
Just an excellent use of that. And I had not thought about using course templates that way. You know, we have a lot of districts using it for grade setup of courses so that teachers don't have to do that. But like,
Yeah,
imagine being able to do it for your professional development. It's so
yeah,
smart. It's so smart. Well, and I was thinking about, you know, we had also talked about grading groups, and you had mentioned to me like how beneficial for a professional development course where I can separate elementary from secondary. So if I've got
yeah,
this course on one topic, but I want to approach it a little bit differently or have different activities, I sure can do that.
right. Or you might have a whole group of, like, we'd often do a thing that was like a whole group thing, and then we would have breakout sessions, right? So, and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it was broken out by PLCs. But if you could have like all your resources in one thing, and then PLC sub folders or whatever, so that then they would just see the things for
So
them, like,
smart.
yeah,
Yeah.
so many things that you can do with that. And another thing that just came up, I happen to be part of an AI literacy cohort, and somebody in the cohort was actually putting together a PD session on AI, and like was talking about completion rules and how it was hard because there were things that she wanted to actually have gated. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
just wait. So I was thinking about how amazing the whole idea of conditional release is for professional learning, for all the self-paced things. Like,
Yeah, so you like have to make sure that the learner,
yeah,
so teachers in this case, do certain activities before the next activity displays.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's and to your point, it's self-paced. You don't have to worry about, you know, is it time for them to have this next thing? Do I have to go in and unpublish the next thing? You don't have to worry about it. It's a set it and forget it.
just set it and forget it. And I do like, I guess a question for you, and maybe I would want to ask this to the customers that aren't using Schoology. I know that one thing that came up was people saying like, oh, we don't do a lot of online PD. Like as soon as COVID got
Mm,
over, everybody wants to be back in person. We're doing that much more frequently. And I still would say, but don't you want even just like a parking lot of resources that people can
that's
access
my thing.
after the
Yeah.
fact? Like,
Mhm.
why is that so different than what we do with kids? We're like, we're gonna post things in the course for you. Yes, we meet every day, but like, here's all the stuff in case you're gone or you want to revisit it.
That is actually another, I think, really important point about the value of having a learning management system like Schoology, right? Is that it's not meant to replace the learning that happens when you're in person. It is meant to supplement it. It is meant to be that place where people go. And if your teachers are learning how to go to the platform and to get their information and to get their resources, and sometimes to interact with each other,
Mhm.
then you also are helping them know how to do it with their own students in their own classroom,
Right.
and get that additional buy-in, right?
Yeah.
To your point, if once they're comfortable with being a learner in it, it's a whole lot easier to be a course admin
Yeah.
in the platform. So yeah, it's because I would think, you know, one of the first things I thought of when we were talking grading groups and having the different PLCs is, I know when a couple of the districts that I taught with over the summer, they'd give us options for which book we wanted to read, and then you'd get
Yeah.
grouped in with that group, right? And it was, even though you met in person, it was still nice to have the resource of like, who's all in here with me? What's
Yeah.
happening? Where
Yeah.
were those discussion questions? When was
Right.
this due? All of those things to have a one-stop shop to go to for PD, I think is just really smart.
Well, I think when thinking about the PD parts of it, there are some things that I don't know that people think about leveraging as much as maybe they could. we just talked about grading groups. Something else that actually worked really well for PD when we would, and I'll be honest, like when we rolled out Schoology, and granted, this was like 2012, so I'm like aging myself here, but we made a conscious decision that everything that we did for PD would be in Schoology, whether it was technology or not. Like, that's just going to be where things land. Now we were fortunate that we had also at that time it was ERO, so it was people admin, but there was the connection between the two back then even. So anyway, the thing that we thought was really interesting was there was this desire to have evidence of you using these things in the classroom or gallery
Oh,
walks or
yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
And so we started using media albums. And like people don't talk about media albums honestly inside of Schoology, but they're actually really cool little materials you can build. And like for capturing evidence that's private and you have if you've got a picture of a kid, it's it's in the course. Who cares? Like it's not out on social media. So, and then it would give people a chance to like actually respond and have a dialogue about what they saw. Like media albums can be great for PD.
That is actually a fascinating part about Schoology. Do you know, in my like year, a little over a year with Schoology, so I feel like I'm becoming the wise old expert all of a
You
sudden.
are. You absolutely are.
uh, Medium albums has almost never been mentioned to me. And so I just was like, I don't know, maybe it's not a thing. So I think you're right. Like, as you described this, I wonder if it's just like this little known part of the system that people aren't really embracing. And maybe they just haven't seen it used or had to use it and
Yeah.
understand how powerful it could be. So definitely worth checking out. And especially when you have to provide, like you said, those pieces of evidence.
Yeah.
How great to be able to do it within a class. And again, somewhere that it's stored, somewhere that you
Right.
know it's safe, and that you can go pull that again if you need to.
Yeah. And pro tip. So, because we were doing learning walks, so we would go into a classroom where we were going to be observing, a teacher at a class or whatever. You just use the Schoology app to capture either pictures or video, and they go right in the media album.
Oh,
Like it's
man.
incredibly flexible, actually. So I would say that's kind of an unsung hero for PD, but also I, how we've talked about course assessments, like
Mhm.
having some kind of check for understanding or whatever, doing like using a course assessment for an educator to provide a video reflection and to upload content, like it's the perfect kind of capturing of evidence also that you just want your, facilitator to see or whatever. So I guess maybe one of the things to think about when designing PD inside of Schoology is leveraging all those magical little things
Mhm.
that maybe they would be inspired to say like, oh, I didn't know Schoology had this, or how did you build
Yeah.
question? Whenever we had course assessment questions, we would always at the top put the question type. So if they like liked it, they would go like, oh, that's a
Oh,
highlight
smart.
image one. Yes, because sometimes, it's a big list of options for the different item types. Um, yeah, obviously I don't have an opinion about this at all, Ericka. Obviously, I don't.
I just love it because so much of our focus, or my focus, and the conversations with customers has always been on the students, which is super important, right? Students really are they are the linchpin in this whole education conversation, right? Everything we do is to improve how students learn. But a big, part of that is making sure that the educators have the best professional development that they can have to make them as strong as they are in order for the students to do well. So
Right.
I was really kind of blown away about um, how I hadn't really focused on Schoology as a professional development tool. And all of the things that we've talked about as pros with Schoology end up being pros when it comes to professional development as well.
Right. Right. And so one thing I would love to see is I would love to see more, I guess, ubiquitous use of Schoology in cases like that, where I think it's easy to get into it has to be online learning, or it has to be blended learning, or it has to be students only. Instead of having like, and we haven't even talked about groups, but like leveraging groups for
Mhm.
department meetings and like modeling those kinds of engagements where you might just want to have a place for announcements, and maybe you have discussion boards inside of the group that's for the book talks or whatever.
Yep.
So many things you can do there, and then the teacher isn't trying to manage, oh, I've got to go to this system to do the learning,
Yes.
but I'm over here for teaching. Like, to me, it just makes so much more sense.
Absolutely. Just have
Yeah,
everybody in one system all the time and be able to be the learner and the course admin whenever it's appropriate.
yeah,
I agree. And hopefully, if there's districts out there they've purchased a separate product to deliver PD courses, you're going
yeah,
like, hey, wait a minute. I
yeah,
already have one. I
yeah,
already have one that can do all of this.
yeah,
Um, and for all of the technology coordinators out there, I hope that you're setting up these courses or helping your facilitators set up courses that incorporate some of these areas of Schoology that maybe people don't know about,
yeah,
and using it a bit more creatively, maybe is the word
yeah,
I'm looking for.
yeah,
Because the more we push the envelope with professional development, because let me tell you, there's some trainings, you and I have to do every year. And I really appreciate when those trainings have a little pizzazz to them,
yeah.
when there's a little something extra, and maybe Schoology can provide that in these professional development situations.
Yeah, the other thing I think now we have, if you are facilitating PD and you just need an idea for like a icebreaker, I am like the I hate icebreakers girl, so I like, and people need it and I get it. It was just not my thing. I would
Yeah.
100% use PowerBuddy for learning and just say, give me 5 different like options for an icebreaker, and just, or do choice. Like, I would leverage PowerBuddy for learning so insanely for PD also, because like,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah. And just to remind everybody that the content generation part of PowerBuddy is included. It is free. So if your district isn't using it yet, you might want to ask about that, because it's just perfect for situations like this, being able to create, whether it be icebreakers or discussion questions or other, honestly, activities. There's just, I think we're up to what, 29 tools now in the
yeah,
system at this point. I mean, it's just, there's all kinds of things it can do.
yeah,
And professional development is no different.
yeah.
That's an excellent point, Kelly.
No different. And also, I feel like like a good practice would be to be transparent about having used an AI tool to generate an idea, so that people are like,
I
oh, you used PowerBuddy for this, or
I just had a conversation with a district who implemented these like little icons or
yeah,
badges
yeah,
that it either said like this has been created by AI and modified by a human, or it was created by a human modified by AI.
yeah,
And like they want that transparency so that they see people using it responsibly and in a really good way. So
yeah,
I 100% am on board. Like, how great would that be to show teachers of this is where I used it,
yeah.
and it worked out really well for this situation.
Yeah. Now there are badges obviously inside of professional learning. So that's
Mhm.
something you could do, obviously as part of that system. But I will say that the badges were super popular in the PD stuff with adults. Like, people would actually pay attention, be like, I haven't gotten my badge yet for, for XYZ. In fact, I had a colleague who had to keep a spreadsheet because people were so like, people had posters of all of their badges they'd gotten for PD.
I love
It got
it.
downright competitive around it. So yeah, anyway, well, for a poll question,
Ooh, yeah,
it's obvious, right? Like, I would want to know, are you using Schoology for
your
PD
professional
now?
development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just get a gauge on like where is that happening? And hopefully, especially as we do think about getting ready for summer and some of those things, if people haven't tried it yet or haven't thought about it, now is a great time to be planning for next year's PD offerings. And maybe it should live in Schoology if it doesn't already.
I love that idea. Thanks, Kelly, because I figured you'd have a good background in how to use Schoology for professional development, but it's one of those things I definitely want to start having those conversations more and more with districts.
Yeah, and one like last note about that, we actually have a PD offering that's about doing PD in Schoology through our customer ed team
Yeah, even
because it was
better.
designed for like if you are getting professional learning and this, we want to make sure you know how to build good courses.
Yeah,
So anyway, food for thought. Like our customer ed team also has some great things, obviously
we
around.
do.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of our customer ed team.
Yes.
So,
Same.
and I'm a big fan of you, Kelly. So I appreciate the conversation today.
As always. Yes. So I'll put the poll up, and obviously, if you are listening, you already know where these can be found, but we'll have a QR code for you to actually vote so we can kind of see what your feedback was around using Schoology for PD. Well, thanks for joining this episode of the Schoology Learning Podcast. Hope to see you next time where we'll talk about some more topics of interest and, of course, talking about our favorite platform, Schoology.
And in the meantime, if you click on the user toolbox at the bottom of the Schoology page, there are lots of resources out there, including other episodes of this podcast to listen to. Until next time.
And hope to see you next time. Thanks all.